Hello and welcome to Raus IAS DNS session. We are going to discuss today's newspaper, The Hindu. We shall take up articles important for civil service examination and discuss them as per the demand of the exam. These are the articles that we are going to take up for discussion, and there is one announcement. There will be no DNS tomorrow. There is an article on page number 2, ban on construction demolition work as air quality worsens. The air quality in Delhi has been slipping and it is almost in the severe category. So, the Commission for Air Quality Management has declared a ban on construction and demolition activities except for the essential projects. Yesterday, the 24-hour average air quality index of Delhi was 399. From 401, it enters into the severe category. So we are just there, especially in the context of the winter season because of the calm wind and stable atmospheric conditions. Because the cold wind subsumes the area and the cold wind being denser does not rise up. So there is a stable atmospheric condition, there is calmness, the wind speed is less. So the mixing in the atmosphere that results in diffusion of pollution is also not there. This ban that has been ordered by Commission for Air Quality Management is part of Graded Response Action Plan. Graded Response Action Plan is an emergency measure to deal with the pollution in Delhi NCR region. There are 4 things to be studied here. Number 1, air quality index. Number 2, the reasons why during winter the air pollution condition deteriorates in Delhi NCR region. Number 3, Graded Response Action Plan. And number 4, Commission for Air Quality Management. So we shall begin discussing them one by one. Air Quality Index was launched by the government in 2000 as part of Swachh Bharat campaign. It's a kind of indicator through which a common man can judge the air quality in his or her vicinity. There are color codings which makes it easier to analyze the situation of air pollution. The air quality index is based on 8 pollutants: particulate matter 10, PM10, PM2.5, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, ozone, ammonia, and lead. The index has 6 categories: good, satisfactory, moderate, poor, very poor, and severe. And you can see where we are living, people who are in Delhi. We are in this zone. To give you a baseline, in many European countries, in many of the cities of Canada, the AQI is 15. We are crossing 400. The air quality index was developed by Central Pollution Control Board. UPSC in 2016 has asked this question: in the cities of our country, which among the following atmospheric gases are normally considered in calculating the value of air quality index? Carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and methane. See, carbon dioxide is a natural constituent in atmosphere. Although the higher percentage of carbon dioxide will not be good for our health, but still it is not considered as a pollutant for calculating air quality index. The same is the case for methane, which comes out as a natural process of decomposition. So here the answer would be 2, 3, 4. Air pollution is very important topic. The quality of urban air is very important, not just for the environment, it's important for the entire economy. UPSC in 2021 in the mains exam has asked this question: describe the key points of the revised global air quality guidelines of WHO. They also asked the changes that needs to be brought in India's National Clean Air Program. The issue of air pollution is really complicated one, and there is no one single factor that can be pinpointed for the cause. UPSC in 2015 has asked a question: Mumbai, Delhi and Kolkata are the 3 mega cities of the country, but the air pollution is much more serious problem in Delhi as compared to the other two. Why is this so? That brings us to the second thing that I mentioned in the beginning. The reason why air pollution of Delhi gets severe during winter. This we have discussed earlier in the DNS dated 5th of November. Delhi air pollution has many causes. One set of factors are natural factors. Because of the location of Delhi, it is in the interior surrounded by land. It is a landlocked territory. Northwesterly winds also has a role to play. It brings the dust from Rajasthan and beyond. Because of continental location, low level of temperature inversion is there. And that also brings down the wind speed that doesn't allow different layers of atmosphere to get mixed and diffuse the pollution. We have discussed all the factors in great detail. If you want a quick revision, please refer to this DNS. Based on the air quality index, the different segments of air quality, we have prepared graded response action plan. And it's all rooted in the MC Mehta versus Union of India case of 2016. In this case, Supreme Court was addressing the issue of air quality in National Capital Region. And based on this judgment came out the idea of graded response action plan. Basically, it's an emergency response plan as to what we shall be doing when we are in different category of air quality index. You have seen previously there are 6 categories. So nothing to be done when we are good, when we are in the satisfactory zone. But when we are in moderate to poor or very poor or severe, and there's a 4th category made in the graded response action plan, severe plus. So based on which category we are lying presently, different state machinery should be taking certain action. That is graded response action plan. Now the reason why it was so necessary after MC Mehta judgment is that MC Mehta judgment has put right to live in pollution-free environment at par with right to life itself under Article 21. So it has become a fundamental right to live in pollution-free environment. So it is an obligation on the state to provide pollution-free environment to the citizens. MC Mehta case is considered as a landmark in the role that Supreme Court has played in environmental conservation in India. Supreme Court in this case also accepted the doctrine of public trust, which says that government is the trustee of the natural resources like forest, air, water, sea, and that is meant for general use by people. It cannot be part of any private ownership. Supreme Court also applied the precautionary principle in environmental conservation, according to which the government has to be proactive to anticipate any possible sources of environmental degradation. In anticipation, it also has to take measures to prevent and attack the causes of environmental degradation. The polluters pay principle that was made part of various policies on waste management latter also was strengthened in MC Mehta case. Polluters pay principle imposes liability on any person or any institution, any corporate body that pollutes the environment. And it asks for compensation not only to the victim but also to the environment. And in terms of liability, we also have accepted the principle of absolute liability, meaning the compensation has to be as much as the damage has been done. And compensation has to be given both to the victim and for environmental degradation. These important principles became part of Indian legal jurisprudence for environmental regulation. So MC Mehta case is a landmark in environmental governance in India. After MC Mehta case, graded response action plan came into being. The plan was formulated by Environment Pollution Prevention and Control Authority. It was notified in 1998 under Environment Protection Act of 1986. This used to be a Supreme Court mandated body, and it used to coordinate between the center and the state because pollution crosses the borders of the state and it became an important and contentious federal issue. So Supreme Court pitched in. An Environment Pollution Prevention and Control Authority used to work under the mandate of Supreme Court. It was monitored by Supreme Court. Graded Response Action Plan focuses on PM10 and PM2.5. Earlier, we have seen that 8 pollutants are taken into consideration. 2 of them are PM10, PM2.5. In particular, these 2 are very, very harmful. And graded response action plan has been developed based upon the concentration of PM10 and PM2.5 in the atmosphere, the data of which we collect from Air Quality Index. The plan is not only for Delhi but for Delhi NCR region. It says NCR and adjoining region that covers Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, also Punjab and Rajasthan. Although the plan was formulated by EPCA, but now we have a new body, Commission for Air Quality Management. And Commission for Air Quality Management has replaced Environment Pollution Prevention and Control Authority. So Environment Pollution Prevention and Control Authority, this no longer exists. This body has been dissolved. And now we have a new body by Act of the Parliament, Commission for Air Quality Management. So Graded Response Action Plan presently is declared by Commission for Air Quality Management. And with this overarching body that used to give direction to center and the states, which was under the control of judiciary, has been dissolved and the regulatory activity has come back into the hands of the executive. But Supreme Court has played immense role in environmental conservation. The formulation of Environment Pollution Prevention and Control Authority itself speaks a lot about it. We have discussed slightly the MC Mehta judgment as well. There have been numerous steps, numerous regulation, numerous directives given by the Supreme Court in the interest of environment. And hence UPSC in 2022 has asked this question in the mains exam. The most significant achievement of modern law in India is the constitutionalization of environmental problems by the Supreme Court. Discuss. We had discussed this issue at great length already in the DNS. I also have mentioned to you that Graded Response Action Plan focuses on PM10 and PM2.5. UPSC has asked question based on these two in 2022 in the context of WHO air quality guidelines. This guideline is the same based on which we have already seen a question. I have shown you this question of 2021, describe the key points of revised global air quality guidelines by WHO. It was in 2021. In the next year prelims, UPSC has asked question on the same guideline. They have given some numbers here in option 1 which is correct. In a year, the highest level of ozone pollution occurred during the periods of inclement weather, meaning cloudy, rainy weather. You know that ozone development in atmosphere also happens because of anthropogenic reason. And those reactions that develops ozone are photochemical reactions. So light is important. In inclement weather, the reach of sunlight is lesser in the atmosphere. So highest level of ozone pollution will rather occur in sunny weather. This is incorrect statement. PM10 can penetrate the lung barrier and enter the bloodstream. PM10 is not large enough to enter into the bloodstream. That happens with PM2.5, and that's why it's too dangerous. This statement is incorrect. Excessive ozone in the air can trigger asthma. Yeah, of course it can. So the answer here is option B. So if we can take care of PM10, PM2.5 at least, then much of the health hazard because of air pollution can be managed. That is why Graded Response Action Plan focuses on these two pollutants, but the data of 8 pollutants is given by Air Quality Index. And based upon the concentration of these two pollutants, there are certain measures given in the graded action response. When the Air Quality Index is in the range of moderate to poor, and you have PM2.5 and PM10 ranges for moderate to poor category. In the action plan, these measures have been suggested when the condition is moderate to poor in terms of air quality index. Stop garbage burning. Pollution control regulation in brick kilns and industries. Pollution control in thermal power plants. Periodic mechanized sweeping and water sprinkling on roads with heavy traffic. Dust control in construction activities. Enforce Supreme Court ban on firecrackers. And fly ash ponds, they must be watered. When we come to very poor category of air quality index, these measures are suggested. Stop use of diesel generators, enhance the parking fee, increase the bus and metro services. Stop the use of coal and firewood in hotels and open eateries. And this is a nice one. Provide electric heaters during winter to security staff, either by the Residential Welfare Association or by individual houses, so that they can stop open burning. And when we reach to the severe stage, which we are, measures to be taken are to close brick kilns, close all the stone crushers, the hot mix plants, identify the road stretches with high dust generation, and increase the frequency of cleaning the road and sprinkling of water. If you are in Delhi, you must be seeing this. Big tankers, they are sprinkling water on the roads. Shut down the Badarpur power plant. See, power plant, they give out huge amount of fly ashes, huge amount of pollutants. And fly ashes are the most potent sources of PM10 and PM2.5. It is also suggested to intensify public transport services, to hire more buses on contracts and run the metro regularly. The measures also include to introduce differential rates to encourage off-peak travel. There is a fourth category which is not there in air quality index. Air quality index stops till here. But in the graded response action plan, there is another category, severe plus. When we reach there, the administration must stop the entry of truck traffic into Delhi except the ones carrying essential commodities. They have to stop construction activities, odd even scheme can be used for private vehicles, and additional measures like shutting down of schools can also be taken. When we enter into severe and severe plus category, there are measures of stopping the construction activities are suggested. Stone crushers, brick kilns, power plants, they are huge sources of particulate matters, especially the fly ash, because it has fine particles of PM2.5. UPSC in 2015 has asked a question, With reference to fly ash produced by power plants using coal as fuel, which of the following statements are correct? Fly ash can be used in the production of bricks for building construction. Fly ash can be used as a replacement for some of the Portland cement content of concrete. These two statements are correct, and the reason why it was asked because fly ash was made mandatory as construction material in construction sites. Statement 3 is fly ash is made up of silicon dioxide and calcium oxide only and does not contain any toxic elements. If it didn't, then why would we bother to manage it? Statement obviously is incorrect. It's doubly incorrect also because of only here. The answer is option A. The point I'm trying to stress on here is this question was also because of rising air pollution back then. It's a continuing issue. It still is important for your mains exam. Now we come to the fourth topic that I told you initially that we'll come to. Commission for Air Quality Management. Commission for Air Quality Management initially was formed by an ordinance. That ordinance failed, government brought another ordinance. But then it was finally made through an act of parliament. The body is headed by a chairperson who has been secretary to the government of India or a chief secretary to a state government. And the chairperson shall hold the post for 3 years or until he or she attains the age of 70 years. Please take a note of this. It is a very powerful body in terms of environmental regulation because it can give directions to any states on issues pertaining to air pollution. It can also overrule the directives issued by the state governments in the Delhi NCR region. It can also take up complaints for management of air pollution in the region. And it can lay down the parameters for control of air pollution. It also has the power to punish violators. It can impose and collect environment compensation from anyone doing open burning or going against the laid down regulation. It can also collect compensation from farmers indulging in stubble burning. And because of this all-encompassing power in terms of air pollution regulation, there are many concerns as well. As I have made reference to earlier, by dissolving Environment Pollution Prevention and Control Authority, the government may have tried to take the issue of air pollution out of the purview of judiciary. There seems to be an overt concentration of power in the hands of central government because there would be one representative from each state, but there would be multiple representatives from multiple regulating bodies of the center. There would be representatives from CPCB, Niti Aayog, and various regulatory bodies in terms of air, water, etc. So many states have expressed concerns with regard to the overarching powers vested in CAQM. The representation of NGOs engaged in environmental activities is also very nominal, and rather there's overwhelming numbers of bureaucrats. But it hasn't been long since this commission has been formed, so the overall effectiveness of the commission can only be judged few years down the line. There is an article on page number 7, The Other Side of the Sanctuary. This article is in the context of protest being organized in the state of Kerala against the declaration of eco-sensitive zone. You must have recently read in the newspaper in the month of June, Supreme Court gave a judgment making it mandatory for the states to declare a minimum of 1 kilometer around the protected areas, the national parks and wildlife sanctuaries, as eco-sensitive zone. Previously, by the regulation of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, this was 10 kilometer. But Supreme Court taking the cognizance that it is not possible many a times. For instance, in the case of Sanjay Gandhi National Park in Mumbai or Guindy National Park in Chennai, these national parks are very close to urban habitats. So striking a balance between development and ecology, Supreme Court has said that at least 1 kilometer, diluting it down from 10 kilometer of area around the protected areas, must be eco-sensitive zone. But this time the Supreme Court was also very stringent. The state governments were asked to submit a report as to what is their declared eco-sensitive zone around every protected areas. What happened previously was many protected areas didn't have any eco-sensitive zone. So Supreme Court did two things. It diluted the area that was to be declared as eco-sensitive zone, and at the same time it made it strict. So earlier the protected areas that didn't have any eco-sensitive zone will now mandatorily has to have at least the area 1 kilometer around it as eco-sensitive zone, and hence the protest. Earlier, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change under National Wildlife Action Plan of 2002 to 2016 has mention of areas called as eco-fragile zones. And later, these were declared as eco-sensitive zones by the notification of the ministry. Eco-sensitive zones are declared as per the provision of Environmental Protection Act 1986. But I must tell you the term eco-sensitive zone is not mentioned in the Act. The Act talks about the general provisions that mandates the government to regulate industrial activities around the protected areas. And using these provisions, the concept of eco-sensitive zones have materialized. But nevertheless, it is declared as per the provision of Environmental Protection Act 1986. But if I say it is mentioned in the Act, that would be incorrect statement. Supreme Court further has given more room so that the judgment can be implemented and it is practical. Supreme Court in the same judgment said that this minimum width of 1 kilometer may be further diluted if there is overwhelming public interest. And in Kerala, people are trying to persuade the state government to argue the case in the Supreme Court that it is in the public interest that eco-sensitive zone be not declared for certain protected areas. UPSC in 2018 has asked this in GS paper 4. What is meant by public interest? What are the principles and procedures to be followed by civil servants in public interest? Public interest is a very important principle in administration and governance. You must know the answer to this. What do you mean by public interest and principles and procedures to be followed? Although this question was asked in GS paper 4, but you prepare an answer suitable for GS paper 2 and post that in the comment section and use that as a content in some of the answers that you write for GS paper 2. So in public interest, rules can be changed because this is one of the important principles to be followed. But if the state government wants to dilute the provision of eco-sensitive zone, then it has to take permission. The state government shall approach the Supreme Court appointed Central Empowered Committee and the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. And then the Supreme Court will consider the opinion of both these bodies and take a final call on case-by-case basis. The idea of eco-sensitive zone is to act like a buffer, a transition zone between the protected area and the normal unprotected ecology. Because there is no hard line boundary between the protected areas, the national parks and wildlife sanctuaries, and the region around it. So to protect the protected areas from the negative impact of industrial and other activities happening outside, the need of a buffer region was felt. You can think of eco-sensitive zone also like ecotones, the boundary between two different ecosystems. These eco-sensitive zones are very helpful for in situ conservation. It has been well studied and documented that the successful story of Kaziranga National Park for the conservation of rhinoceros has been because of eco-sensitive zone around the national park. Eco-sensitive zones also help in combating the man-animal conflict. If human activities are happening immediately outside the protected areas, there's always increased chance of man-animal conflict. There are certain activities which are permitted within the eco-sensitive zones. The ongoing agriculture can go on as it is. The horticulture practices can continue. Rainwater harvesting or organic farming or use of renewable energy sources and any other such declared green technology can all work in eco-sensitive zone. Certain activities are regulated. Who regulates it? The classification of this permitted activity, regulated activity, and prohibited activity comes along with the notification of eco-sensitive zones. It's the chief warden of the state that classifies activities into these three categories and recommends it to the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, where it gets the final stamp. Activities like construction of electric cables or commercial use of natural water or adoption of heavy technology in agriculture or widening of roads, these can be regulated. But certain activities are prohibited. Mining, prohibited. Polluting industries, prohibited. Sawmills, prohibited. Hydroelectric projects, prohibited. You cannot have the kind of tourism of going above the national park through hot air balloons. Now let me take you through discussion of 2014 with reference to eco-sensitive zones, which of the following statement is correct. Eco-sensitive zones are the areas that are declared under Wildlife Protection Act 1972. The purpose of the declaration of eco-sensitive zones is to prohibit all kinds of human activities in those zones except agriculture. Galat, galat. You know it's Environmental Protection Act 1986 and this all here makes job easier. There's an article on the business page, Forex reserves dip for second straight week. Let's have a general discussion on Forex reserves. There are four components of foreign exchange reserves. They are foreign currency assets, special drawing rights, SDRs, reserve trench with IMF, and gold that is being held by RBI. Foreign currency asset is the largest component of Forex reserve. It mostly consists of dollars. All the dollars that RBI keep buying from the market, that goes into foreign currency asset. But apart from dollar, RBI could also be buying other major global currencies like euro, pound, yen. Over and above this, foreign currency asset could also comprise of investments in US Treasury bonds or bonds of other selected stable economies. It will also include deposits with foreign central and commercial banks, whichever commercial banks or foreign banks that the RBI chooses. So there could be various kind of currencies and investment in various kind of assets in various currencies. But all of that is expressed in terms of dollar. So other currencies or investment in other currencies are converted into dollar using the exchange rate, and the entire foreign currency asset is expressed in terms of dollar. The second component of foreign exchange reserve is a special drawing rights, SDRs. See, the concept of SDRs is very simple. Suppose a country C joins IMF. So for joining IMF, a country C has to give some contribution. This contribution is generally in proportion to GDP, and that contribution is called as quota. When country C gives its quota, it gets from IMF SDR. What is it? Is it currency? Is it money? No. Suppose quota of country C is 3%, then the SDR will also be 3%. Suppose, for the sake of understanding, all the members of IMF contribute together $500 billion. So 3% of $500 billion will be contributed by country C. But not necessarily IMF will release SDRs proportional to $500 billion. IMF can release SDRs of any amount, be it $100 billion, 200, whatever it deems fit. But for whatever amount the SDR will be released, 3% of that will be given to country C. So physically country C gets nothing. It is just a concept that 3% of SDR is with country C. But lot can be done with that. First of all, that 3% of SDR will be held as Forex reserve. You can also exchange just like currency, but remember SDR is not currency. But you can exchange those SDRs for currencies. Who will buy SDR? Maybe a country that is not feeling very safe, a country that feels that it can default. That country may buy your SDR. You can sell your SDR and in turn you can get a hard currency, maybe dollar. The member country can also use these SDRs for repayment of loan to IMF or the interest payment. Or that SDR can also be used to increase the quota at IMF. Suppose this country C is having a quota of 3%. After some reform, the quota is increased. Suppose from 3% the quota goes to 4%. So remember initially I told you if the quota is 3%, that means some money has to be contributed to IMF. When quota is increased, the contributing amount will also increase. So now you have to give money in hard currencies, but a part of it you can also give in terms of SDR because the country C is already holding 3% SDR. So for increased quota, this SDR can be used for payment to IMF. When IMF releases SDR, that is not released in terms of only dollar. That is actually a basket of 5 hard currencies: euro, renminbi, yen, British pound sterling, and US dollar. But however, SDR, even though released in terms of basket of 5 hard currencies, but is expressed in terms of dollar, just for the sake of simplicity. So the other components of the basket, euro, renminbi, sterling, and yen, they are converted into dollar depending on the exchange rate, and one number is expressed for the SDR in terms of dollar. The SDR the country gets is in proportion to the quota that the country contributes to IMF. And that SDR becomes part of the Forex reserve of the nation. The third component of Forex reserve is reserve trench with IMF. See, we have discussed this that every country has some quota at IMF. Quota meaning you have to contribute to IMF. That contribution can come in two forms: foreign exchange component and domestic currency component. Meaning suppose you have to pay 100 units then 75% of that, meaning 75 unit, you can pay in your domestic currency, and 25 unit you have to pay in terms of foreign exchange component. Here again, you can divide it into two parts. You can pay in terms of dollar or you can pay in terms of SDR. And the amount that you are paying in dollar and SDR, that you can keep with yourself. You don't have to give it to IMF, but you cannot use it the manner and the way you like. It will be with you. And when the need comes, you can use it. For example, the repayment of loan or the interest to IMF. In the eventuality of you defaulting, you can use it. Under the times of stress, you can use it, but not otherwise. This is something that you had to give to IMF. But IMF has allowed you to keep it with yourself. Because when the time comes, you don't have to go rushing to IMF. You can first use this component. And if you need more, then you can go to IMF. So this component basically is called as reserve position in the IMF or reserve trench. And this also becomes part of Forex reserve. And then there is gold that is kept with the RBI. Now let's do some questions related to what we have studied so far. This question is from Prelims 2013. Which one of the following groups of items are included in India's foreign exchange reserve? Very basic question, and the answer would be foreign currency assets, gold holdings of the RBI, and SDRs. This question is from Prelims 2016. Which one of the following best describe import cover? See, one of the benefit of high forex reserve is increase of import cover. High import cover shows better fiscal health of the country. Import cover basically is the months of imports that could be paid for by a country's foreign exchange reserve or international reserves. Presently, India's import cover is 14 months, meaning from forex reserve alone, India can keep paying for imports for 14 months. This question is from Prelims 2020. Gold trench or reserve trench refers to. Reserve trench, as we have just talked about, is the trench that the countries keep with themselves. It is a part of the quota that was supposed to be given to IMF, but IMF is allowing the countries to keep it with themselves. This is the lead article from page number 6. A strong case exists for marriage equality. So let's discuss the same-sex marriage. Sometime back, there was a petition in Delhi High Court to recognize the same-sex marriage under the Hindu Marriage Act and the Special Marriage Act. This petition was filed in the court after the same-sex marriages were not being recognized by the government even after Supreme Court decriminalized the consensual homosexual acts. After the petition was filed, the Delhi High Court sought the opinion of the centre, and the centre opposed changes to any existing laws related to marriages. Section 377. This erstwhile section was part of Indian Penal Code. It used to make sex or marriage with persons of same gender a punishable offence under law. But in 2018, Supreme Court in Navteej Singh Johar case decriminalized consensual homosexual sex, effectively striking down Section 377 of IPC. But mind you, entire Section 377 was not struck down. Section 377 also had provision for making bestiality as a punishable offence, and that has remained intact. The central government has submitted in the Delhi High Court that any interference with any marriage laws will cause a complete havoc in the delicate balance of personal laws in the country. They have said that living as partners and having sexual relationship with same-sex individuals is not comparable with the Indian family unit concept. In the concept of Indian family unit, there is a husband, a wife, and children. And this concept necessarily presupposes that a biological man is the husband, a biological woman is the wife, and children are born out of their union. Registration of marriages will also become problematic. Because if you go to register your marriage, you'll have to prove that ceremonies and rituals were done in the marriage, unless it was a court marriage. And the traditional ceremonies and rituals cannot be done in the same-sex marriage. So the centre has submitted that all statutory provisions will become unworkable. It is also their contention that in the 2018 Navtej Singh Johar case. Supreme Court decriminalized homosexuality. But the stand of the center is that this judgment, it did not legitimize homosexuality. It only decriminalized it. Recognizing same-sex marriage will actually legitimize it. However, there are many Supreme Court judgments which actually has laid the foundation for the same-sex marriage. In the Puttaswamy judgment, the constitutional bench declared right to privacy as a fundamental right. Right to privacy was made part of right to life and liberty. UPSC in 2018 has asked in the mains exam, what is going to be the consequence of this judgment? Puttaswamy judgment has been the pot from where many judgment took roots. Aadhaar judgment is based on Puttaswamy judgment. Hadia judgment was also based on the Puttaswamy judgment. Navtej Singh Johar case can also be strongly linked with Puttaswamy judgment. Because privacy of an individual recognizes an inviolable right to determine how freedom shall be exercised. And choosing one's partner, that's also part of liberty under right to life and liberty. So any intimate act and matters related with marriage, they all are covered under privacy. So they all are fundamental right. In the Hadia judgment, Supreme Court observed that intimacies of marriage lie within the core zone of privacy. The choice of a partner, whether within or outside marriages, lies within the exclusive domain of each individual. Supreme Court already has recognized living relationship as good as marriages. In one of the judgment last year on interfaith marriages, Supreme Court observed that matters of dress and of food, of ideas and ideologies, of love and partnership are within the central aspects of identity. The court further said, society has no role to play in determining our choice of partners. Supreme Court reiterated the stand it took in Sabrimala judgment and other judgments previously. It said the Constitution protects personal liberty from disapproving audiences. The social values and morals have their space, but they are not above the constitutionally guaranteed freedom. These are very important observations of Supreme Court from various judgments that you must put under your belt. In Sabrimala judgment, Supreme Court previously has said that individual freedom prevails over perpetuated group rights. Individuals cannot be forced for social conformity. Individual freedom, liberty, choice of partners, intimacies under marriages, they all are part of fundamental rights. And hence, although not explicitly said by any judgment of Supreme Court, these observations naturally lays the foundation for same-sex marriages. Now sit very attentively and give the test. Take 2 minutes of time and attempt the test in one go. Then and only then you listen to the discussion. PM 2.5 that has diameter that are generally 2.5 nanometers and smaller can penetrate the lung barrier and enter into the bloodstream. Previously, during the discussion, we have seen that PM 2.5 is more dangerous because it can get into the bloodstream. That is okay. But PM 2.5 is not having diameter of 2.5 nanometers and smaller. It is rather micrometer. Statement here is incorrect. Delhi NCR region is defined as the region having presence of Aravalli Hills. That means covering Delhi, Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh. There is no such definition of Delhi NCR region based on the presence of Aravalli Hills. And anyways, Aravalli Hills presence is in Delhi, Haryana, Rajasthan and some part of Gujarat. Delhi NCR region rather covers the state or UT of Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana and some part of Rajasthan. Punjab figures nowhere there, either in the states covering Aravalli Hills or Delhi NCR region. But under graded response action plan, measures to control air pollution can be taken in Delhi NCR and adjoining region. And in that context, Punjab also figures up. The statement given here, however, is too messed up and has to be incorrect. Commission for Air Quality Management is a statutory body. True. We have seen that it has been formed after the bill getting passed by the parliament. But here they say it has been formed under Environment Protection Act 1986. And that makes the statement incorrect because it has been formed under a separate act, Commission for Air Quality Management in National Capital Region and Adjoining Areas Act 2021. So it hasn't been formed under Environment Protection Act 1986. Commission for Air Quality Management releases Air Quality Index. You know this very well. Central Pollution Control Board releases this. Statement is incorrect again. Commission for Air Quality Management can impose stiff penalties and possible jail terms for stubble burning. We have seen that the power of CAQM is wide. It can set the parameters, give directives for air quality management. It can also impose penalties, but it cannot punish in terms of jail terms. You know that CAQM previously was formed via ordinance, and in those days, farmers' protest was at its peak. In the first ordinance, this provision was there, but because of the protest by the farmers, their demand, this was taken back. So things as it stands today, CAQM can impose penalties, but the power to give jail term is not there. Statement is incorrect. CAQM will be headed by Secretary to the Environment Ministry. You know this is incorrect. It can be headed by Secretary to the Government of India, any ministry, or by the Chief Secretary of the states in the Delhi and adjoining region. The upper limit of age up till which Commission for Air Quality Management chairman can hold the post is the same as the upper limit of age for NHRC chairman. I have brought your attention to the fact that the chairman can hold the post in the upper limit of 70 years, and the same is for NHRC chairman, so the statement is true. Firecrackers can be banned as part of graded response action plan only if the air quality index is in the severe category. This only here makes the job easier. And anyways, you know that ban on firecrackers can take place right from the stage of moderate to poor stage of AQI. The concept of public interest is suited to the principles enshrined in Article 39A of the Constitution. If you know about Article 39A, it talks about quick social justice through legislation. So, as such, the concept of public interest litigation emanates from Article 39A, but not the principle of public interest. Let me give you some food for your thought. You tell me in the comment section which article do you think of the Constitution enables the principle of public interest to be incorporated in administration. Large hydroelectric projects have been declared as renewable energy and hence can be allowed in eco-sensitive zone. You know this very well. In 2019, large hydro projects also has been included in the category of renewable energy. Earlier, only small and micro ones were included. But perhaps to meet the target, it was also included. So this part is correct. But it doesn't mean that it can be allowed in eco-sensitive zone. It is still barred from there. So the statement again is incorrect. Tell me, how did you fare? And yes, I wish you a great year coming ahead.